You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. And every day we make countless decisions, but what's your major concern today? Is it to send and receive money safely or to enjoy convenient banking? Well, the right place to go is Bank of Africa. And at Bank of Africa, you can access swift money transfers via Western Union, MoneyGram, and Worry. You can also bank on the go with their electronic banking products, B-Web and B-Mobile. You could also pay your fees and utility bills there. And that's value for your money and your time. So just go to any branch of Bank of West Africa all over the country and enjoy the convenient banking. Are you into real estate development? Do you sell housing products? Looking for an opportunity to meet your potential customers? Sign on to the Kumasi edition of the Multi-TV HFC Habitat Fair, which comes off at the Round Pavilion of the Golden Tulip on the 22nd, 27th and 29th of November. And so to exhibit your housing products and services, please contact the following numbers: 0540106 344, 05401111943, or 024273761. Remember, 2015 Habitat Fair Kumasi is under the theme Affordable Housing and Renewable Energy. Habitat Fair 2015 is brought to you by HFC Bank, Seti Reality, Noble Reality, and Multi-TV. Now, let's deal with a bit of NPP and its internal mess, I must say. And we have just some 20 minutes to deal with that. Let's see how we're able to deal with that. And I'll start with Kweku Bako first. Kweku, what do you make of all the problems that just will not go away, and the vandalism that continues to happen at the NPP's headquarters? Well, they don't like us saying it this way, but that's what it is. That's the truth. That's what is going on. They took a decision. They said Afoko has been, suspended. Afoko says, I'm not suspended, I'm in charge. Kwabena Japan, who's the general secretary, comes to back him. And that's what it is.
Last week, we dealt with this. Of course, there have been new angles,
right, twists
and turns.
Including the suits.
Yes, so I appreciate why you brought it back on the front banner. If you recall, I made a point that if Mr. Afoko was insistent that he's still the chairman, the test of that claim lies in convening a steering committee meeting, National Executive Committee meeting, or a National Council meeting. Then he can test the validity of his claim. But to be issuing congratulatory messages before even election declarations are effected, or to appear at a public event and get an EC tag and display it as evidence of your continued stay in office in spite of your status as a suspended chairman, it's ridiculous. It's now, more or less, it's a stand of transient irritation that threatens to degenerate into a tragic comedy. That's the way I see that Afoko thing. He must focus. Use the internal mechanisms of the party to appeal or proceed to court if he thinks that's the option. Because he himself hasn't gone to court as such.
His supporters are already in court.
Yes, I want to be just careful, precision. He himself hasn't indicated that he's behind it or he's the one doing it. But for me, to continue insisting that you are party chairman when you cannot effectively operate as such, it's ridiculous.
But all of this hurts the party.
It does. But the party has to go through that storm.
They are in a meeting, and Kwabena Japan, who is the general secretary, served with an injunction application and a writ. He goes to the meeting, brings it to their attention, and says, I recuse myself because I cannot be party to this meeting. Then his vehicle gets vandalized.
Did the general secretary had become a bailiff at that time?
He's the general secretary. He's the one to be served.
No, about 30 people had been named, listed.
He wasn't part of it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Listed persons.
Okay, I didn't even know. I didn't even know that. But the main point
is that there's something he's bringing to light here.
Okay.
Because the party had not been sued, It is not the general secretary that was supposed to be served.
Exactly. And the named individuals were in the meeting.
That's an interesting point. I didn't even know. But I'm saying that he decided that because that was the situation, he couldn't sit in the meeting. For me, the real point was the vandalism, the stone that was thrown at his rear windscreen. Condemnable. You need to condemn that completely. And indeed, if the party could locate whoever did that and hand over the case to the police, I would
the matter has been reported to the police, and Hajia Fati was arrested and granted bail.
That she was the suspect?
Yes.
Who threw the stone?
She says she actually knows that it's Mr. Japan himself who destroyed his car.
Let the police deal with it. But you see, the part about the damage, the extent of the damage, I have a difficulty with it because I wasn't there, so I read my Joy online, the story on what had happened there, and then later I saw the pictures, contrasting pictures. So I called your reporter, Felix Akoya, and asked him to narrate to me what he saw. And he said, well, he was at the gate when Kwabena Japan drove out. He couldn't even see the crack because for him it wasn't visible. He's not suggesting that the crack wasn't there.
Okay.
It was there. For me, I believe so because I've seen pictures to that effect. But your journalist said he was shocked and surprised when he saw that huge damage and that couldn't have happened at the party headquarters. This is what he told me, and he was on the spot. So I think something went wrong along the line. If a report has been made to the police, perhaps, the actual report should be made that, look, this was a crack. But maybe in the process of going, you went into a pothole, and then the team...
But in 20 seconds, tell me, how is this hurting the party?
Oh, it provides ammunition for the party's detractors to make all sorts of propaganda against them. Party's own followers are a bit worried, concerned. You know, they are, yes. So it's not a good picture, but it is not a fatal injury to whatever the party is planning to do towards the election.
Doc, I start with you on the question of the legal effects. You just prompted me on this, that it does appear that the service was even defective in the first place.
It was, and what I must add is that I got the narrative of how even the service took place, and then the story is that it was initially given to one of the assistants, or if I may call, I don't want to demean the person, one of the guys who work with Mr. Japan, and then he in turn brought it to the general secretary, and where it was taken to his house. So, I mean, with the NPP having headquarters and then having the officers being sealed, you just take it there and then you serve the process on the individual persons.
Okay, by the dictates of the law, if an individual has been sued, you ought to serve them personally.
Personal service is key.
So because the party was not sued, you are wrong to serve the general secretary, who is not a party to the suit.
To a meeting where those officers are. And then, the result of that, the officers who continue with the meeting on the following day at 2 p.m. have now been cited for contempt. The application is now pending. But what is curious about this is that these suits have been filed, but these persons have not been served. So you can see that there's a grand effort somewhere to actually perpetuate this kind of situation so that the matters are not resolved. That's why the chairman, the acting chairman, decided to communicate to state institutions, because there's a clear indication that the former chairman wants to continue to exercise powers that he hasn't got. Some state institutions may respond positively, but others that may want to harm you as an opposition party may continue to deal with him. But for an institution like, let's say, the courts, on 26th of this month, which was on Monday, an affidavit was filed with his signature beneath it at the Supreme Court.
The chairman's signature.
The signature. I mean, I'm talking of Mr. Foko. And then I have it here. So he still deposes to an affidavit that he is the chairman of NPP, just that the date on which he signed, it's indicated that it was signed on 22nd. That was the day before he was suspended. But the day they filed it in the Supreme Court was 26 10/2015 at 1 p.m. And this is the beginning. I, Paul Afoko of number 29, Airport West Residential Area, Accra, in the Greater Accra region, do hereby make oath and say this. 1, that I'm the national chairman of the 9th interested party in the case in the Supreme Court. So at the time of filing this, the lawyer who had the instructions initially to represent the party lacked that instruction to act. But he went ahead and filed it until it was drawn to the attention by Justice Yawapel, the Supreme Court. Hey, I've only heard something on air. This issue will complicate this case in the Supreme Court for us. Some institutions will act. And I think that, in my view, official acts are deemed to have been properly done. Now they are pontificating and raising issues about the impropriety in his suspension. The onus is on them to go through the system, appeal to the National Council, but the more they remain intransigent in pursuing an agenda that is actually bringing the reputation of the party into disrepute, also making it difficult for us to have a peace of mind whereby when a letter comes and then it's given to someone who is an officer, then the person, because of where he may belong to, may decide to hide it. I think that is where the troubling aspect is. And I believe the national leadership of the party will need to act and nip this in the bud. If you want to go to court, and then the matters will be resolved. If you want to use the internal structures, use it, and the matters will be resolved. I think that's the way to go, but continually holding yourself as a national person, chairman, when you are in fact not. It's actually disrespecting the institutions of the same organ that you were working with. I mean, and that's why I was surprised with the assistant of the general secretary saying that they still recognize him as the national chairman. Mind you, this is the third most important organ of the party.
Well, there are those who suggest that what happened was a sort of a coup d'etat. Well, and so to the extent that the things that happened, the procedures were illegal, he has every right to insist
on the issue of illegality.
They insist that he's still the chairman.
Themselves. No, that's a wrong thing. Yes, there should be an independent arbiter to interpret that issue, not them. So what is the effect of even a coup d'etat, a revolution? I mean, we have read ex-party Mazimba Mutu. We have read the case of ex-party Matovu. We have read the case of Salah and Attorney General. Even if you assume, and I'm not saying it's the case, that there was even a revolution, a way of changing an officer in government that is not anticipated by the constitution of the NPP. I'm telling you that any time that change is efficacious, it will be blessed by any other institution that is supposed to bless it. I mean, that is what happened in ex-party Matovu. So I'm not even saying that the argument that there was a coup d'etat in raising issues because the regime is now effective to operate.
I have an audience that will not be may not, appreciate the deep legalese that you get into. But Mr.
Mensah will feast on it.
Oh, look, he's not alone, because even ordinary people calling themselves floating voters are expressing disappointment in the NPP in the manner in which it is fighting itself.
My message to them is straightforward, that let's believe in Psalm 23, that this is like a tunnel. So you are walking through a valley of a shadow of death, but at the end of it, there's light. So no one should fear. The party will be united to forge ahead in 2016.
What are your comments on these developments, and particularly because the violence recur?
Yeah, I think that I take a cue from the admonition of the late Professor Mills in his popular Jufiasem statement. But to the extent that the NPP is a public institution and its demise affects the politics of this country, I'm compelled to make a few comments. It was Thomas Campbell who said that coming events cast their shadows before, and we can see a gradual, steady disintegration. And that is my greatest, and that is my greatest worry. Perhaps for a party in power and seeing the major opposition party disintegrating, one should just smile and laugh and just keep quiet and walk away. but I am a little concerned. Now, I have looked at the NPP constitution, and Article 9, Clause B and C, define bodies in the constitution that deal with matters of this nature. I'm a little worried about the haste with which decisions were taken. Looking at the National Council of the party, which on page 38 and 39 of the Constitution defines with membership exceeding 40, and even the NEC, which you could find on page 43 and 44 of the NPP Constitution, which defines the membership of the body of about 38. And for an important matter relating to the chairman of the party, you have, of course, the quorum is 1/3, okay, but there are some sensitive issues that require some broad consensus. You have a membership of about 11.
Who told you that?
Congregating.
It's not true.
That was what was published in the papers. The names were published. No one has denied it. No one has corrected it. We have 11 people published in the papers who met to take a decision on the chairman, and I thought perhaps that was a little problematic.
But corporate governance, insofar as there's quorum, they can decide for the entity.
But having said that, you know, we have various models of decision making. And from my background, we can talk about the rational. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
No, this is a factual correction he wants to make.
Yes,
so I think it's,
there were 30 people there. 5 of them had no voting rights.
Ex officio.
24 had voting rights.
And all these persons have been sued.
Right, but beyond that, we have various models of decision making. We have the rational decision-making model. We have the bounded rational decision-making model. We have the incremental decision-making model. We have the political decision-making model. We have the garbage can decision-making model. And for a political party, it is the political decision-making model that becomes relevant. And political decision-making hinges largely on compromises and consensus.
What was Bushaya's thing? Which model was
that? Is history.
No, I'm asking.
That is history.
I only want the model.
The model.
The model.
The model. You want to know
the model? Yeah.
For this particular circumstance, one would expect that consensus building and compromises would inform the outcome of such challenges.
Suggest that, for example, they called upon him 18 times or so, and he disrespected or ignored them.
Yeah. You know, when we are taking a decision, you also want to look at the intended effect of the decision. You also want to find out whether you can define various scenarios of outcome and be prepared to deal with these scenarios. I want to believe that that has been done. And I want to believe that the whole idea of going to court to place injunction on the decisions have all been thought through, and that the NPP is ready to deal with such difficulties. Our prayer, and my prayer, is that this does not disintegrate the NPP, and I'll keep them in my prayers.
And Mr. Mensah,
have you actually been praying for them?
Yes. For a governance institution like yours, what does this?
The critical issues are this. We come into leadership to serve a larger idea. And in leadership, from a governance perspective, you would understand, especially organization, the organization is bigger than you. The interest of the organization supersedes you. So just like we're told that Ghana is bigger than all of us, including even the president. So there are certain moments that you have to, as an individual, ask yourself, my actions, does it advance or represent or reflect the bigger interest? Am I advancing the bigger interest of the organization? If for any reason your love for the organization and respect for its traditions and so on, you are led to think that it is not, then you have to act accordingly and say, well, I don't believe this, I don't think it's right, and so on. But in the interest, given what is standing, I have to. Now, where you take a good example of this is President Mbeki. He was executive president of South Africa. He had all the powers and so on, and his party was divided over him. He had his followers and the Zuma followers and so on. But it's said that when the party structure called him and said, we intend to recall you, which means you have to step down as president.
Right.
He said, I'll do as you wish accordingly. The party is bigger than me. And they were surprised the way he handed it.
No, due process.
Due process.
He took it that due process was followed.
Yes.
In this case, Mr. Afoko and his supporters believe that due process.
No.
Yes,
It was not just
only
that. It
raising
was not
technical
South
points
Africa. They
that
had
are not
issues
based
about
on
the
the
due
law.
process and so on. But at some point, this is what he said. He said, I came to serve, the party is bigger than me. And because he realized that if it's not, this could go on in a very nasty way and it could create so many problems. So I think sometimes the rules and the laws, if you want to go by these things, you might overlook the ethics of leadership and the humility of leadership, the servant leader, and where just look at the situation and say, can I advance it further? Can I do better if I bring all this together or not? And then you have to make a decision. At that critical moment, it's a decision you make not only because this rule said that is it there and it's air and it's is and was, but it's rather the collective feeling, the values and what you're trying, the interests you represent, and you say, is my action advancing or not? And you make a decision. So it's not just the law. The law is a litigation, which is what we are seeing now, the situation. You see, it's a litigation. I'm right, you're right, and so on. But who is certain? Who is it affecting? And what is your responsibility as a leader to do that? I think we should learn from leadership in other domains and see how in critical moments like this, individuals in leadership positions act. That's
A few messages here. This one says from Larry Dogbe. He says that the absence of Dr. Barima Akufo-Addo and Gabi Otredako at the forum was key. They should have been here, not abroad, to justify their claims. Stapled pictures were not proving no Togolese, no Ivorian, no Malian, and no Burkinabe register to substantiate foreign invasion claim. The claim that 10% of foreigners were in the register was also reduced to 1%. Computerized facial recognition software was also changed to human eye recognition, and the NPP conveniently forgot that fingerprints are not same. The NPP has always been on a deceitful journey on its new register call, or its call for a new register. There are some of you, I'll just read one to encapsulate those messages, that the EC chair's remarks about the 30,000, whatever was irresponsible and lacked maturity, and so on and so forth. And some of you saying also that the continuous insistence by the EC that there ought to be vigilance by the parties is a non-starter, because the public are paying through their taxes the EC, and it is expected to do its work, not expect the parties to do those things. Too many of your messages, but I guess this is all that we can take for now on the show. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kweku Bako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. We are run out of time, I'm sorry. Dr.
Why, you're
Emmanuel
going to comment
Akwete.
on this again after you've been praying for them?
For them.
Dr. Emmanuel Akwete with the IDEG is Executive Director, and also Dr. Puku Dusei is a Senior Lecturer of Law at the University of Ghana and with the NPP. Also, Mr. Sylvester Mensah is a former, immediate past Chief Executive of the NHIA and is a presidential staffer. I'm Samson Ladi Anyenini. And as always, my outfit was supplied by Latida. You can contact Latida. Please listen carefully so that you don't send me personal messages about the number. The number is 020-433-6444. That's the Latida's number. 020-433-6444. Or you could also call them on 026-650918. Latida, be invoked. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.
Newsfile was brought to you by